You're listening to Neurodivergent Mates. Hello and welcome to another episode of Neurodivergent Mates. I'm your host, Will Wheeler, and today we're going to be covering strength-based support, growing students and staff together with my good friend, Josh Michel. What's going on, my friend?
Nothing much, mate. Nice to see you.
Yeah, likewise, man. Likewise. What's been going on? I hear you got some new work.
Yeah. I've just after 13 and a half years of William Angus Institute back in Sydney, I've moved literally around the corner to Co-Hive. So Co-Hive is a local business that's helping to develop pathways for 17 to 35-year-olds living with a disability, so with low support needs. So it's a wonderful
Nice,
experience.
man.
Yeah.
Nice, man. What change is good as a holiday, am I
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah. It's been good. It's been wonderful. So yeah, wonderful companies. So yeah.
Awesome, man. I think if I could think of anyone for that role, I think you'd probably be the best person for it, my
Thanks,
friend.
mate.
So
Thank you.
hopefully your boss is listening, eh? A good plug there for you, right? See how
Thanks,
we're
mate.
going, right?
Sure.
See how we go. But look, what we might do, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping just before we get started. So if this is your first time listening to us and you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media pages. We're available on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitch, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And if you're also listening to us on maybe one of the podcasting platforms, please subscribe, comment, do whatever you need to do on the actual platforms there. We're on everywhere where you listen to your podcast. It really helps with the algorithm and gets more people listening to us. Now, just a bit of a shout out to all the work we're doing at Neurodiversity Academy. You can check us out by going to neurodiversityacademy.com there. Lots of great articles, past blogs. You can also check out Neurodivergent Mates, all of those types of things on there. Now, just a little bit of a warning. Some discussions may be triggering. If you need help, please reach out to a loved one or call emergency services. We are not doctors. This is a space for sharing experiences and strategies. Now, also, too, if you've got any questions and you're listening to this through the live version, so you can be checking us out through our Facebook pages, Twitch, LinkedIn, and YouTube as well. You can definitely be commenting, doing whatever you need to do to check out what we're doing there. So lots of cool things there. So please ask questions as we're going through, and if they're decent questions, we might ask them. What do you reckon, Josh?
Not a problem, mate.
All right, mate. I don't want to put you on the spot or anything like that. All
No,
right,
it'll be fine. It's
cool.
fine. All
Let's
good.
get this show on the road, my friend. So, I think a big thing when you and I have spoken a lot, we're always talking about, students and, especially staff as well. I think probably the biggest thing that we really need to see a lot of change, and not necessarily staff as such, but the organization and people within that organization having a better understanding about how to support neurodivergent students and things like that. So what we might do to kick off, can you introduce yourself and maybe share a little bit about your background and the work you do?
Sure. So, as you know, I'm a chef by trade. So I basically started cooking back in 1997, long time ago. But yeah, just worked in restaurants across Sydney and even in London for a couple of months. But when I was doing it, I really enjoyed the teaching aspect of, training on the job. So I reached out to one of my old TAFE teachers, and all of a sudden in 2006, I started doing a couple of classes a week, training chefs and apprentices, and then really enjoyed it. And before I knew it, in 2013, I was full time, and then back in 2020 is when I'd been, teaching students and apprentices. I trained a lot of apprentices over the years, and I did some work with the National Indigenous Culinary Institute as well. But really, I really enjoyed that. It was so different to cooking. I still kept my skills up to speed and working on the weekends, but really enjoyed the teaching aspect. There's nothing better than when you show someone how to do something, and then they replicate it. And I'm happy to if they even did it better than I would in the trade. So, and it's such a rewarding
Can
career.
I?
And then, yeah,
Sorry, sorry to cut you off there, just because it's on
sure,
my
sure,
mind, and like especially with cooking and all of that,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah.
you'd come across so many awesome chefs and things like that. But have you ever seen some of the chefs that you've trained up actually gone on to some really great stuff?
Yeah. So some of them, I think two of my ex-students, one last year was a good year. So one won the Sydney Good Food Up and Coming Chef, and then one won the Melbourne one. So in the
Oh
Good Food
wow.
Guide. So that was pretty rewarding. Shout out to the Burke twins and Savney if you're listening. But yeah, it was a rewarding kind of thing. But it's also when you see them outside the kitchen, like that's possibly the most rewarding thing, because when you're teaching, it's you're teaching the trade, but it's also those life skills. And you see, I've run into a lot of my apprentices over the years, and they still take time to talk to you, and you actually see that the young men and women that they've become. And to me, that's beyond the kitchen. That's like those special moments where you've actually changed their lives, and that's
Mm.
mate, that's the most rewarding part of teaching
And,
and education. So yeah,
and can I just say on that, right? Like that trade, right? So what would you call it? Like being a chef type of thing,
yeah,
right?
hospitality, yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
I was going to say hospitality, but I was trying to sort of target right on being a chef type of thing.
yep, yep,
It
yep,
can be
yep.
pretty brutal at times,
It
right?
is, yeah, and I've had some brutal experiences in kitchens, and I've brought them into the classroom, not in a bad way, but I've drawn on those experience and explained to, when we're dealing with apprentices, like they're 17 to 25-year-old young adults,
Mm,
or when they're just entering the commercial cookery field, like it's a very vulnerable time. Like it's you. So I've used those experiences and said, what would you do in these kind of things? And like they're real life case studies. Like this happened to me. Like the industry has changed a lot. Like the industry has, and it had to. Unfortunately, there
mm.
was some, that it got a really bad name, and unfortunately, there was a lot of stuff that happened very early on in and it's kind of all been stamped out, thank goodness. But when you that's where I'm talking about, like, it is quite a hard trade, but it is very rewarding, and the
Mm.
rewards from, and it's like life. You make the most of every opportunity. Like I was a young chef, and my days off were Tuesday and Thursday, but that was wonderful because my wife was still working full time. So any negative experience or something like that, like a bad roster or something like that, no, it's actually a good thing if you look at it in a different way. And
Mm.
I always get in trouble for saying not that the glass is half full; it's over full when it's only half full. But
Yeah.
yeah, just gotta. It's how you look at those
But
experiences.
I
So yeah,
think as well, right? And like you said, like when you've met people from outside of what you've actually used from being an apprentice when you were their teacher type
yep,
of
yep,
thing, right? I think as well that, yeah, you've had some of those experiences there, but there's no reason for you to be acting like
no,
that. And then
no,
that can actually go on to the next person that you teach, right? And
yep,
hopefully they take that in and go, look, I don't
yep,
need to be a prick.
yeah,
I can
yeah.
be a good person and I can
Yeah,
still be really good at what I do.
exactly. Yeah. And the industry's shown that. Like some of the chefs I've worked with, like even the three-headed chefs, like amazing chefs and amazing people, and good luck to them. They continue to do well, and that's a reflection of everything. So it's wonderful to see. So
Yeah. Now, what is your connection with like neurodiversity as such? Because I think that'll be an interesting point to sort of get across to our listeners, all of
yeah,
that
sure.
type of thing.
Yeah, sure. So, when I first started teaching, I got involved in disabilities because I was tutoring intellectual and neurodiverse students at the same time when I first started out, and I worked with the disabilities unit to work out ways to kind of get those students through their exams. Like I had, for example, and I'll draw on it later, but one student had memory loss issues and all that kind of stuff. So I worked with him, and I had like a 12-page workflow, and like this is how you crumble the butter, and this is what it looks like when the butter is mixed with the flour. Then you add the water, And we did a workflow where he made perfect sweet pastry, he made perfect Danish pastry by just following pictures and words, and it got to so descriptive that I'd write at the bottom of the page, clean the bench and stuff like that. So that's where my first introduction to the field was, and I really enjoyed it. Then 10 years ago, I've got a very young family, and my son's actually on the spectrum, so that's where it's also a bit of a personal touch for me. So a bit of, like I said, why would I leave a college manager role where I was at William Anglis? But I can see Co-Hive has such potential there, and I really want to continue to change people's lives, and that's where my whole
And
my
just to
future
explain,
lies.
and just to explain to our audience just a bit more about Co-Hive. So,
Yeah,
what are you doing there, and how's what you've done in the past relating to that?
sure. So I'd worked when I was in my role at William Anglis Institute. I was working. We did programs with Co-Hive, and what they're basically doing now is they're focusing on the students with low support needs. So it's kind of they're students. Majority are on the spectrum and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but they're really helping to change their lives. It's what we're doing with programs and stuff like that is it's not just the learning aspect. So we do programs such as employability skills, hospitality, touring pathways, and all that kind of stuff. But it's also, as an educator, you see those incidental learning and the learning that happens, like the social side of it. Like it's when they're on a break or something like that, it's when they're sitting down and chatting to other people, which is it's that's the hard part of education. They can sit there and learn how to write a resume and write a cover letter, but for a lot of our participants, the hardest part is that social aspect and group work. We're dealing with individuals that have gone through school and been doing a lot of stuff by themselves, and that's the element. For instance, like
Mm.
during the COVID lockdown, my son was in his element because he was at home learning online at his own pace. Wonderful, he loved it. But as we as and what they're doing now is bringing people up together, and that's where the whole strength based training, like we look at what someone might be really good at and work with them on that skill, and what can they bring to that group environment and build up their confidence to go out there and that for once in their life that they're the expert on something which is really good, and utilizing those skills to not just better themselves but better the other participants, the trainers.
Influence other people and all of that
Exactly.
type of
Yeah.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
Awesome
Yeah. Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. So, moving on from that, you actually mentioned you focus on playing to student strength.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what does that actually look like in practice there?
Okay. Okay. So I'll go back to. I will use a lot of cook analogies, and I say that when I do
That's all
interviews
right.
and
That's all
stuff like
right.
that. So
This is a cooking
yeah.
podcast today. You know what I mean?
So if you look at it, like you have chefs that just want to do patisserie, you have chefs that just want to be the grill chef, that just want to do entrees and all that kind of stuff. So you play to those strengths. As a good head chef, you know that you need the best people on each section, and you train people around. So everyone's like the best chef in a kitchen is the all rounder, but they don't become the all rounder by just, you know, doing bits and doing a shift here, doing a shift there, and all that kind of stuff. They take time, they work to their strengths, and they become the master of that section, then move to another one. So, same as in same as in education, we work with their strength, we get their confidence up, they do that task well, and then they can move on to other parts of the learning. So
Which might not be as like their strengths may not be as strong in those parts, correct?
yeah, and that's fine.
But
So
they
they
have
might
more confidence because they know that they've got really good
yes,
strengths in other
yes,
areas than that.
exactly, I think the key part is you've got routine, but you also need to every now and again show, because life's unpredictable, there's always stuff that's going to happen. With some of our participants, like change is the hardest thing. So
Mm.
if you slowly can introduce a little bit of change and get them used to just little changes, and so when a big change happens, which is always going to throw anyone, work with them and
Can
adapt quickly.
you give an example of maybe what some of those changes have been? Like, what could it be like, okay, well, now, we know you love this, but we really want you to go do this now? Or is it like, hey, look, you've been doing day shift, but, we really need you in the night shift now? What
Yeah.
does it look like?
So in industry, it is kind of like that.
Mm,
In basically in education, like different units, like a lot of interest. I've come from a very vocational education and training. For composite based training, you can't get around the fact that if you are doing a pastry course, you have to make choux pastry, you have to make a croquembouche, you have to do sweet pastry, short crust pastry, and all that kind of stuff.
mm,
So in that kind of field, you edit the resources and the teaching style to get that through to the students and work with them into understanding. Like, for instance, we recently, the collaboration between William Angus and Co-Hive, we did a short course where we contextualize a lot of the PowerPoints. We have something people might think it's simple, but just reducing the amount of texts on a PowerPoint, more
mm, mm,
pictures, the teacher using more role plays, and adapting to the student. I think that's where you really have to get to know your participants basically from the start, or your students, and all that kind of stuff. As an educator, that's kind of our role, to know our strengths of our students, and then once we know that, we can really start to tailor. Everyone goes in a UDL, all that kind of stuff, but it's not actually tailored for those students, tailored for everyone. So
mm,
playing
mm,
everyone's
mm.
strengths in that way. So
And yeah, I think like it's almost the strength of your own if you're able to really adapt to different students' personalities, lots of different things. And it's not everyone can do it. And I can tell you right now, you can't always win everyone over.
no, and
You can be the nicest person in the world,
yep.
and there's just like I've come across some people who I just can't. Like, I'm pretty chilled, and people like, oh man, you look like you're always happy. You got a smile on your face and all of that. And I'm thinking, what? I'm not always happy, but there's been some people I just cannot get across the line type of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it's like that in the kitchen, but like it's, you
Mm,
work, there's roles that just have to be done. Like
mm,
and it's like that in any workplace. There's roles that have to be done. There's people that you work with and you'll get along with, and you could be good mates and all that kind of stuff in a workplace. But and then other people you might, not be as close to, but that's fine.
mm.
That's not a problem. That's yeah.
Mm, mm. You know what keeps coming up in my mind, and I don't know if you're a big fan of this show, but the bear. You
I've
know,
only seen 1 or 2 episodes. My wife's watched the
oh,
whole couple of
oh,
series. So
you
yeah.
haven't? Oh my god, you haven't watched the bear? I would have thought that would be something. Okay, so like probably the bear, probably everything you were talking about in regards to what it was like in the early days. It seems like a lot of that goes on in there,
Yep.
like full abuse but what I'm sort of getting at is from what I can see from the show, it's you've got a guy who love making desserts, and he's really focused on that, and like the bear sent him overseas or the guy who owns the bear, I think they call him bear, I can't remember, sent him overseas to go to like a certain part to learn from the best chefs in the world about how to make desserts. Just this one dessert they had to focus on like making and things like that. Do some chefs take it that seriously?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Some chefs, like, for instance, like even some of the chefs that I've worked with in the past, like they can do amazing things with sugar, and
Mm,
they do like a sugar sculpture, and they've spent 25 hours on that sugar sculpture, pulled blown sugar,
mm,
like it's hot sugar, like it's 100 and
mm,
something degrees, and they're pulling it and blowing it just for the love of the trade. We are unusual human beings as chefs. We get that rush from a busy service period, and yeah, it's just the fact that you got multitasking, you got all this stuff on the boil. Literally, it's a thrill every day in hospitality. So
Yeah, I reckon no day would be the same, I'm
no, it's never
assuming.
the same. Never the same. So, yeah.
So how do you reckon that would work for, say, an autistic person then, who's very like structured wise
Yep.
type of thing, where
Yep.
that could change? That would be interesting to know.
It could also, so that's where we look at the strengths. So, for instance, another student I had over the years, like he worked for, I think he worked for like a well-known catering company. I won't mention on there, but his
Mm,
job was to just do antipasto platters, and
mm,
he made 400 of these antipasto platters, but everyone was perfect and everyone was
mm,
precise. Some chefs would be like, man, this is a monotonous task. I'm not going to be doing this. But he loved it. He did 400 plates where the olives was in that, the salami was on that thing, the prosciutto was folded like that. Everything was perfect. So the thing about hospitality is there's a number of opportunities, and basically the same as education, but there's so many different opportunities that people can go down, um, and play to their strengths. That's why I
mm,
keep coming back to hospitality, because it really is a trade where, and like all trades, if that's what your strength and your passion is, there's no reason why you can't make a successful career out of that kind of
mm,
stuff. And one thing I noted, and when we did the Cert 2 cookery, just last year, some of the questions, like I worked with Kim on, was, the loud noise of a commercial kitchen, the exhaust fan constantly humming, the uniforms. A lot of people overlook those kind of things. It's not like every autistic person can't wear a cotton
mm,
shirt or something like that, but to work in a commercial kitchen, it would probably be needed. So it depends. They could still have a job, but they might not be able to work in those restaurants where they are wearing. Or do you just change the material of the chef's jacket? There's so many advances in technology these days.
mm.
Why should the fact that you can't wear a cotton chef's jacket be different and stop that person from
Do
embarking
you
on it?
reckon, like how like you can get not like full like headphones like what I'm talking about like
Yeah, yeah,
wearing
yeah,
here,
yeah, yeah,
but like those real small ones you can put in it, like can like quite like what a noise canceling, all of
yep,
that.
yep,
Could
yep,
things
yep,
like, because you can still hear, like if
yep,
you were talking to me, I can still hear you. It blocks out a lot of things. Do you
yep,
reckon things like that could potentially work in
definitely.
like
Yep.
those areas?
And it's not uncommon. Sorry, it's in a training environment that it's a safety issue and all that kind of stuff, so they don't have
Mm,
those kind of things in. But it's not uncommon in a workplace to see chefs with earbuds and all that kind of stuff in. Now
mm,
they might have one in or one out or something like that, but if it's draining out the background noise, it's, in a commercial kitchen, if someone's walking behind, you say behind, and it's a safety thing. But
mm.
there's also it's a backup thing, like you can always just hold your hand up and people see you come in and all that kind of stuff. It's
Mm,
not,
mm, mm.
I don't see any barrier for anyone that's super keen these days. We are
Yeah, I
very
was gonna
competitive in
say,
this
like,
time.
I think like it's like anything, right? I think sometimes when you're really passionate about something, sometimes you're still gonna put up with
Yep.
like certain things that affect you. If that
Yes.
may, I'm dyslexic and ADHD, right? And I'm in like the education sort of part. I hate reading and writing on the board, but I still do it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
some,
Yeah.
but to tell you the truth, like I never thought I would have got into education when I first started, if that makes sense there, Oh, someone said AirPods. I'm not sure who that
Sure.
was because it's just coming up LinkedIn user. But yeah. So yeah, things like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, so lots of different things to definitely consider there.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
moving on from that there, can you share an example of a strategy you've used that really helped a student to thrive?
Yeah. So, like I said, the most important thing is to get to know the student, and not just at the start of the semester. You might have a couple of different students throughout the course. In vet, you might have 15 students or 16 students or something like that in a class, getting to know each of them. There'll be a couple of people that all have the same strengths and all that kind of stuff as well. There might be one or two that you might have to spend a little bit extra time with and to find them to open up. And in hospitality, people do open up quite quickly in a kitchen. Just that whole teamwork aspect, you kind of build that from the start. So basically a strategy I've used is just to know your students, know your participants, know what works well, and just note a lot of the stuff down at the start. For instance, like at William Angliss Institute, the first semester is they work through the cafe. So having a student in the first couple of lessons, you might be doing a breakfast lesson, or they're really good on eggs and frittatas or pasta making or something like that, sushi, risotto, all those kind of things, those egg farinaceous units. But as an educator, you kind of take those moments in, and if you use those moments, for instance, one of the students in the past was really good at making sushi. I mean, I'm okay. I'm a chef by trade, but I'm not an expert. They worked at a sushi place. So when the time came up for the sushi lesson, I got them involved. You get them around the bench. You've got 15 of their classmates watching them make sushi. They weren't they weren't a master of a lot of the other stuff, but they made sushi really well. But the confidence they got from that moment, and the similar ones with a pasta workshop and stuff like that, you're building on people's knowledge they've had and built up over the years. It's almost like family history, almost, or those kind of things. You're playing to those strengths, because I believe every student would have a strength. 100%. They'd have lots of different strengths, but
Most definitely.
yeah, you're building up those. You're making that moment for the student, and that can literally change their learning journey for the next year, 2 years, however long. Like it's from that one moment making sushi, or don't underestimate the value of those small moments. So yeah.
I actually feel like sushi. Man, it's making me hungry here talking. Out of curiosity, what's your favorite dish?
I like Italian. I've worked with some wonderful chefs over the years, so a lot of gnocchi, a lot of stuff like that. So, as a chef, you're just happy if someone makes you something to eat. So,
Yeah, man.
yeah, like I had cheese toasties for lunch today, and they were exceptional. So, yeah, very
Oh,
happy
really?
if someone
Wow.
if someone makes me something. So, very happy.
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Even if it's not the best, it still tastes good because
Exactly.
someone
Even
else
if
has
it's
made it,
plastic
eh?
cheese. Yep.
Oh, mate, I might have to get you to cook me up something one day,
Sure.
eh?
No
You know
worries.
what I mean? Why not? Maybe when I see you up on the Gold Coast, we'll go
No
to
worries.
one of the Gold Coast barbecues, and we can cook something up on the barbecue,
I got
eh?
a couple of lobsters or something. So yeah.
Oh wow, damn man, that would go all right. That would go all right. I'm not going to say no to that. No, that's interesting. I would definitely say that uh, it's like everything. Do you find that when you get, say you got a class of, I don't know, 15, for example, and you're utilizing those people on different dishes, for example, or different whatever it is, uh, it probably gives them that much confidence to then, and the others probably say, oh, that guy's really awesome at sushi, or that girl's really good at I don't know, making gnocchi or whatever,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then they really start to probably get around each other and support each
Yes.
other
Yes.
with that. Do you find that?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's really, really important for any hands-on trade. Well, basically all aspects of education. I'm sure you could apply that to everything, but making those special moments for those kids and adult learners, it's so worthwhile. And I recently just finished my master's around this time last year.
That's
So
right.
going back
Yeah, I
to uni,
remember.
going back to uni as a 40-year-old
Gee,
was
yeah, that's gone
with
fast.
kids. so, so that was a one. And what I kind of got from that learning experience, from being the learner again, was the moments where the educators and the lecturers would tailor activities, and you understand more like what goes on behind the scenes for them to make those moments happen. And when you're in the groups, like I was in a group with, I became really good friends with some people that were in Department of Education, that were primary school teachers, that were a lot of nurses were in that course as well. But just those key moments where you kind of can showcase your talents to other people. You might be really, really good at something, and you showcase something from your own trade that's pretty easy, but then wow something else. It's a real good moment for yourself and for everyone else as well. So
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I would definitely say, especially when in my education, I suppose, pathway, I always just felt like I was sort of the same as everyone else. But especially now I've jumped into this whole neurodiversity space and really introducing that to the vet sector type of thing, and really breaking into, higher ed and all of that type of stuff, where it's probably a little bit more open than what it is to the vet sector.
yeah,
It really differentiates who I am, if that makes sense. It sort
yeah,
of makes me, what's the word I'm looking for? Becoming my own, if that is the
yep,
word I'm looking for, type of thing. And it does,
yep,
because you feel like an expert. You know what I mean? I know, like,
yeah,
sometimes people are like, "Oh man, this is the dude." And I'm like, man, I don't feel like that. Like, I have people sometimes say to me, "Oh man, it's inspirational and stuff." I'm like, dude, man, I do not feel like that. It's just me doing my thing, if
yep.
that makes sense.
Well, perfect example, your course, the Neurodiversity Academy course, the way
Mm,
you explain stuff in there, you make it sound so easy, and you're just sharing your knowledge. That's it.
mm,
But to
mm,
us, having a look at it, a different perspective, you're like, wow, that's good. I got that from this, and I got that from that, and I
mm.
learnt this. It's yeah, it's good.
And I think the cool thing with that is, right, it's very hard to replicate. Do
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yep,
So if I was
yep.
to say, "Oh, Josh is going to go up and start teaching exactly what I've done because he watched my
Yeah,
course and all of that," good luck to you, my
yeah,
friend.
exactly.
Eh?
Thank you,
You
mate.
know what I mean?
I'll be on the phone.
Because
Yeah,
yeah. Because I think sometimes, especially when you're teaching and all of that, there's sort of natural parts, and each person is different. That's why, like, yeah, we can share about strengths and say this is what you need to do, but at the end
mm,
of the day, you're really going to bring your own self, and that's going to make you so different from what you do, for example, and so
yep,
forth there,
yep,
and
exactly,
that's the beauty
exactly.
of it, and you can't really replicate someone else, if
No,
that makes sense. But
yeah.
all good. So how do you go about embedding these strengths-based approach across different student groups and learning environments then?
Just a little bit of flexibility by everyone. Not
So you're
just
talking about the organization, the
yes,
student.
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, and I think when when you're a learner and you see that the educator is trying hard to do something to support you, you're pretty flexible. You're pretty understanding. If someone say no, this is the way, like the old hard school early 1900s way of schooling, this is the way you do it that way, not going to work. um, Flexibility where the student can see an effort by the trainer or facilitator, I think that's really, really important because um, everyone learns differently, and the fact that there is an effort being made, a PowerPoint has been edited to put more visuals in it. Okay, um, that student knows that it's probably for them, but the rest of the class just sees it as better learning. It's just
Mm,
better for everyone. Like,
mm,
so, and even like, you know, just the learn environment, like you got to make the students comfortable. Like a student is not going to be comfortable sitting in a row of seats, staring at the blackboard with someone writing or an overhead projector, like when we went to school and they moved everything over.
Overhead projector.
Oh,
Man, that's probably in museums now, overhead
yeah, exactly,
projectors, I'm assuming, right? An overhead
exactly.
projector. Damn.
Yeah,
And then the
yeah,
teacher would flip, like,
yep,
put the thing on, and then have
yeah,
to sometimes be upside down. And
yeah,
oh my God.
yeah. So just like I said, the learning environment's more than just you see a lot more classrooms where they're groups of four and they're facing each other now. Like you didn't face anyone in primary school. I didn't face anyone unless you're in trouble and you're
Hmm.
at the back of the classroom. Not that that was me, mum.
I had to, well, I would have to go sit right next to the teacher. My desk
yeah,
was like right next to the teacher's desk. It sucked.
yeah. But I think we've changed as a society now. Like, you've got a group of, like, in my son's school, like there's four people at a desk talking, and it's that education is now more collaborative. Collaborative
Mm.
was copying back when we were at school, which probably still happens, but it's you're once again working together with other people, which is, I think to me, that's the most exciting thing about education these days. Like it's you're all learning from each other. So
And I think what I'm liking, and a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about today has been more about tertiary. But,
yep,
what we're starting to see, especially with like, primary, high school, all of that, we're starting to see some, alternative type of schools starting to really get out there now,
yep,
and we're seeing that there's a lot of positive things happening from that. And I often think to myself, and I was speaking to my mother about this not long ago, if I had been in like maybe one of those alternative schools, how would I have turned out? Because I know that for a long period after school, I was just lost, you know what I mean? And there was no guidance or anything. But maybe if I was in one of those schools, I could have been really who I wanted to be. But in saying that, maybe I wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing now. Do you know what
yep,
I mean? So you can't turn back time, can you?
yeah. And I think things happen for a
For a
reason. I
reason.
think, yeah, and exactly because we learn from those experiences, and let's face it, like 17 to that's why I'm bringing it back to Co-Hive, but that's why it's so important in that time when you just finish school that you help people find their way. Like
Mm.
it's a really I was lucky. I knew from year 7 I wanted to be a chef, so I still did my HSC and all that kind of stuff. But then as soon as I finished, I literally did my HSC on I think it was Wednesday, the 16th of November, and then Saturday, the 19th of November, I started my apprenticeship. And I knew that that's what I wanted to do, but other people aren't that lucky. I just was focused on becoming a chef, and
Yeah. You
yeah,
know
it's
what?
just
For me, I think for me, I just could not. I had no idea. I had no idea. I really wish, and I look back at it now, and I get a lot of people saying, "Oh man, you were like the cool, popular kid." All of this type of thing, right? And I'm like, well, I was the cool, popular kid, right? I did not think that. But I was the cool, popular kid, apparently, right? But why didn't like the school maybe pick up on that, see that, yes, I was struggling in those types of things and go, gee, you know what? Like Will is struggling, but he's a very good communicator. There's jobs like this that require no like I don't know, university degrees or whatever. This could be a really great path for him to
mm,
really take that.
yep,
This is what he might need to look at. You know
yep,
what I mean?
yep,
Those types of that's what, and I look at it now because really, especially building Neurodiversity Academy, right? A lot of what I have to do is communicate. You know what I mean? I need to be
yep,
communicating with people, building relationships, all of those types of things, which I was already doing back when I was in high school. And this is where it's sort of like it was so difficult for me. Where for you already knew in grade 7 you wanted to be a chef.
Yeah.
So it's a different journey for everyone.
It is, and that's it. That's it. Like you look at some of the greatest chefs in Sydney. I think Mark Best was an electrician till he was 50, and then started cooking. Everyone's good thing about education is if you want to do it, you can. There's nothing if you want to change your pathway or anything like that. There's nothing really, and like I said, in today's society, you can do whatever you want. So, yeah, change
The
your
only thing I
career.
would say, if you're neurodivergent, make sure you choose the right place to go study. And soon enough, Neurodiversity Academy will have those right places for you to study at. So definitely check out our site once it's up and going, Anyway, a bit of a plug there. So you've also talked about building up the skills of staff. Now, what are
Yes.
some ways you empower staff to better support students? Now, this is a big one, I think, because this is going to be, and I think when we're talking about staff, it's not just the teachers. It
Yes.
goes
Yep.
beyond that. So what are
Yep.
your thoughts on this?
Yeah, 100%. So it's building up your training and you're building up the confidence in all your staff. So one thing I really stressed at William Anglis was you got the admin staff, you had the recruitment team there, you worked with the trainers. Yes, everything is very trainer and facilitator focused, but that's fine because they're the ones with the most hands-on with the students, and that's fine. That's not a problem. But if you can help to build up the skills of the admins and support team and all that kind of stuff, um, admin and support stuff, you can really get everyone on that journey. So you equip everyone with those skills, and they just become more confident when they go out to an intake meeting, when they go out to a recruitment event, when they go out to, and they really understand the training, and it's basically all just builds back from there. So
I would even probably, I don't know if you've maybe used a different term, but even the marketing and sales teams play such a huge role as well. You know what I mean? Because if we're selling, especially neurodivergent people, the world, and then they're getting in there and that whatever's being sold to them isn't there,
yeah.
that's just a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so you got to have all your staff on that journey, and that's why PD is so important. Like everyone, it's not just a tailored activity for those trainers, it's for the support staff, it's for everyone to kind of understand what's going to work with the participants, and your students are at your college all the day and all the time, and they're not in a classroom all the time. So it's helping them to work with those students when identify that student is sitting there by themselves. How can I start a conversation? How can I get them to maybe talk to the other participant? Because the students, and especially at Co-Hive now, the students aren't there just for that program. They're there for that social aspect and that incidental learning that happens outside that classroom in break time and before the class even starts as well. So
Do they take? Is it the Co-Hive do some like events, like take them to like the football or anything?
yeah. So they do a lot of social events as well. So especially so it's school holidays now, so there's no programs on at the moment, but there's the extra activities like the socials. They're going to the aquarium tomorrow. They went to Taronga Zoo last week. They've got a barista workshop at Angus on Friday. So it's those moments where they're learning a different skill or just chatting and having a conversation. It's not just that activity. It's the fact that the participant now has the courage to get on public transport and work with that group and know to meet at that area or that clock at the certain station, everything like that. It's not learning is not and learning is not just that program. It's all the stuff that happens outside of it. So
Yeah, crazy. Oh, I thought you might have been. They might have been taking them to the grand final on the weekend.
I wish.
I got free tickets.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Well, my mate, he's got like member tickets, so he goes
Nice.
and like I'm a Broncos supporter because I'm from
Same here.
Brisbane.
Yep.
Oh, are you really? There you go.
Yeah.
And he's like, "You want to come along?" I'm like, "Hell yeah, I want to come along." So man, I'm heading to the grand final. Have you ever been to a grand final before?
I've been to 2 in 2000 and 2006, and we won both of them. So
Is that Brisbane?
yeah, but I've lost.
Okay.
I'm also a Swans fan. And I've seen 4 losses. So.
Oh man, bloody I was there for the last grand final with Brisbane, and that was hard, man. It was a good game, but man, that was hard, man. So anyway, hopefully it's a good game this weekend. But the thing is, man, with a grand final, just the atmosphere is next to none. Like I can't describe how awesome the atmosphere is. It's unbelievable. But anyway, we better keep moving on with the podcast there. All good. No problem at all. I like going off track a little bit because it makes it a bit interesting. Now, have you noticed a change in student outcomes when staff feel more confident and equipped in this area?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where, as an educator, you love to teach, you love to get your point across, but you also love to, when that look on the face when someone learns a new skill, when someone has mastered something, when you got to think, if someone, say for instance, if someone's learning how to make a cafe latte or something like that, the first one's going to be pretty bad, and then they've learned they've learned what they've done wrong with the coffee. They've learned.
Sorry, can I ask? Do you test them? Like, do you have a sip and go, "Oh man"?
They do some of them. Like when when they do like a cooking exam, like you'll get 16 students that have to make mushroom risotto. 16 students all get the same amount of butter, same amount of mushrooms, same amount of rice, and you end up with 16 different looking risottos because one person cooked their rice a little bit longer. Someone cooked their mushrooms at the start. Someone caramelized the butter a little bit at the start. Remember, when you become a chef, you never burn anything for the rest of your life. You over caramelize a lot of stuff, but you don't burn anything. So so a lot of stuff you get to taste and all that kind of stuff, which is a wonderful. But when you're doing the desserts exam and you have to taste 16 different brulees and 16 different panna cottas, not the nicest experience.
It would be difficult if you had like food allergies and things like that.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? But it would be. Have you ever like eaten one and gone, "Oh, gee, that didn't go down," and that like you're like, like had to have the rest of the week off or anything like that?
I've had an exam before, and I knew I was in for it because the student kept looking at me when I was tasting it, and it had so much black pepper and chili and it was gritty. So my face went as red as anything, and he goes, "I got you, chef," and I said,
"Oh my god, yeah, sorry, you're gonna have to repeat this subject.
See you in 4 weeks."
yeah, totally. Oh my god, but it would be interesting because you'd probably. Do you ever get surprised by some people? Like you might be like, I don't know, you get someone who's, I don't know, they might be rowdy in class, and you think, "Oh man, this person's never gonna like," and then they cook something, you're like, "Oh my god, this is really good."
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of education. Like, we've had students over the years that they may have struggled the first couple of weeks in the kitchen, and then they go in the cafe and nail it because that's what they do at work. Like they are used to the time pressure of cooking for a real life customer. They know how to adapt when someone says, can I not have tomato on it? And some people are like, oh no, I can't. You got to have the tomato in the dish, or that chef might be the same one that just automatically quickly changes and adjusts. And that's to me, that's still exciting after being around education for so long. Like it's so nice when you see people just surprise you, and I like to get surprised. It's lovely. It's rewarding. It's a wonderful thing.
Dude, so I'm assuming whenever you went to work, did you ever take your lunch with you?
I do now.
Oh, so you never used to take your lunch?
No, well, we had the cafe for the last couple of years, so it was and, and every day was being at a cookery college. One day they're doing produced yeast goods, and there's 12 croissants all of a sudden in the staff room, freshly baked croissants. The next day's danishes, and then chocolate truffles that afternoon. Or sometimes someone goes, "Oh, did you want to try this new snapper dish?" Like it's.
Oh wow, crazy!
I love my career so far.
You would get home and your wife's like, "Are you ready for dinner?" It's like, "Nah, not today."
I'm very lucky. I got a lovely family, so it's I might jump on the pans and do stuff like that. It's simply because
nice, man. Nice. Do you ever go to, like, say, I don't know, McDonald's or anything like that?
Yeah, my son is obsessed with KFC at the moment, so we do like a
really?
bucket every now and then. So,
but do you ever eat it and go, "Oh man, this is disgusting"? Or
maybe sometimes some things I refuse to go out for breakfast, because I did cook breakfast for like 12 years, and I can literally, I remember one day when I was at Bondi Tutoria having to poach 5 boxes of eggs, so that's 5 times 15 dozen on that breakfast service period. And it was it literally, I got the pot in, put the 12 eggs in, took them out, put the next 12 in, and it was just, you get in a roll and all that kind of stuff. But
mate, I struggle just to poach 2 eggs, mate. You know what I mean? Maybe I need to come do a cooking course with you or something, okay?
Sure.
What do you
Sounds
reckon?
Good. Sounds good.
Awesome. Now, on a personal note, what motivates you to continue this work, and what have you learned on your own journey?
So what motivates me to continue work? Passion. I love to learn. Not many people would be 40 years old and decide to go do a Master's of Education. So that was a very unique learning experience. Besides, I've basically done a lot of vet training, so I've done a lot of diplomas and all that kind of stuff. Never had to reference anything in my life. You don't reference things as a chef. You borrow ideas and concepts and recipes and all that kind of stuff. But to reference someone's work and research and learn, I just like reading. I do a lot of that kind of stuff. So anything that can make my life better and my family's life, but also the students' life as well. So many of my assignments I did for my Master of Education became PD activities at work. My very first presentation at VELG was an assignment I did in my UTS course. That's I just want to keep learning and pass that knowledge on to others. And just, another example is I researched a yarning circle and that was another assignment, one of my very first uni assignments, and then I used that where instead of using a yarning stick, I used a wooden spoon and got people to write their names on it and all that kind of stuff. And I used that at VELG a couple of years ago, but that's become a practice for when we have PD meetings at work. Also, we use it as an icebreaker activity, and by showing my spin on an ancient or ancient practice, it's really, really good that you can show that you're still learning when you're our age. And
well, yeah, you never stop, do you?
Well, 25 years old, aren't we, Will? So yeah.
So, that's right.
Another 75 years of learning, but yeah.
Totally, man. Totally. But it's interesting, and I always remember this. I'll never forget when I left high school, because high school wasn't a good time for me. I remember leaving there and thinking, you know what, I'm never gonna learn ever again. Yay! Because I was sick. But man, it's totally the opposite.
Yeah.
I'm continually learning. And you know what? It probably would have been cool if, I don't know, I look back at it now, it would have been great if I could have had some mentors or something that could have really helped me through that period. I probably would have taken a way different direction and all of that type of thing. It is interesting. But you know what, right? Like, I think a thing for me when like I was, especially with my training sort of background, I was doing a lot. Because my background sort of started with like warehousing, all of that, and then obviously getting into business. Like I train like Cert 4 in entrepreneurship and new business now, right? And it's like a whole totally different demographic. Do you know what I mean? From when I used to do warehouse management and all of those types of things, right? But I'm still able to adapt a lot of like who I am to that type of thing and get some pretty good results and all of that because of it as well, which is quite interesting. But look, we're pretty close to finishing up here. So finally, if our listeners want to connect with you, if they want to learn more about your work, where's the best place to find or for them to find where you are?
Sure. Yeah. LinkedIn's always a good spot to start. That's in all honesty, that's probably the best place to reach out and connect. And like I said, connections, I didn't really understand how valuable they were till I started using LinkedIn and all that kind of stuff.
How long ago did you start using LinkedIn?
Only about I had it for about 4 years, and then didn't really use it, and then only the last 3 years I've really started to connect.
I've only known you for about 3 years, yeah.
Well, I think you're the major point.
There you go, man. I know, so I've influenced you. There we go, man. It is, but it's true. Sorry, you there, mate?
Yeah. Sorry, just dropped out. Yeah, back here.
Oh, yeah. But it is. It's such a great tool for connecting with people.
Yes.
You know what? You know how, like, I don't know if you ever see, sometimes LinkedIn says you've got to know a person before you connect with it. I don't believe in that, right? Why not just reach out if there's someone who's interesting, right? And as neurodivergent people, right, it's very difficult for us to go up and just start a conversation at a networking event. But if I can see that someone is interesting, all of that, I'm going to try and connect with them, right? They accept it, great. If not, that's fine as well, because like then I'm able to start interacting with them on a different level. If it's just liking their posts or commenting or whatever that looks like, that's building those connections. And
100%.
And to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't have the podcast if I wasn't connected with half the people that I have on LinkedIn and all of that. And I'm pretty lucky because I can be like, oh man, I've got no one for the show. Hey, you want to jump on the podcast, brother? And it's a good way to chat and all of that type of thing as well.
Yeah, exactly. And and you can also connect. We're also panels up at National Vel.
Oh yeah, we're going. Josh is going to be on one of the panels that I'm going to be hosting up in the Gold Coast at the Vel conference. So if you're in the vocational education and training space, definitely come check us out at the Vel conference there. It'll probably, besides Josh's presentation, it will probably be one of the best presentations of the whole event, I'm assuming. What do you reckon, Josh?
Exactly. And as you can see, we're just under an hour now, and I think the panel is for an hour and a quarter, so we're going to with 2 other people. So
well, the first 20 minutes is me explaining what neurodiversity is, but I think we'll be able to get through it pretty well. Plus we're doing a bit of a dance off in the middle of it, stuff like that. Plus, like, there'll be a lot of interaction with the crowd, all of that. But look, that's us pretty much done for the day, man. Thank you so much for coming today. It's always a pleasure when we catch up in chat. I suppose won't be long now, probably less than a month until I see you, and we'll be catching up, my man. But
4 weeks today.
Yeah, totally. Wow, gee, that's going fast. It's not long. Felt like only yesterday I reached out and said, oh man, we need to get this PowerPoint together. What do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? Finally got it done.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But look, Josh, thank you so much for coming
Always
today.
welcome.
It's always a pleasure, my friend. And for all of our listeners out there, if you haven't already done so, please subscribe, like, and follow to all of our social media platforms. My name's Will Wheeler, and this is Neurodivergent Mates. Till next time.